Alright AFI, Garrett back here again with another book review. Your friendly DoD Skill Bridge intern working with Trevor on as a project manager, trying to help out with the AFI program right now as I transition out of the Marine Corps and into civilian life, and also serve as the Capital Region Vice Chair and the Mid-Atlantic AFI Liaison. The book review today we've got is The Blood and Treasure by Bob Drury and Tom Clavin, and this is the Daniel Boone and the Fight for America's First Frontier. So there you go. Great book. I really enjoyed this. So this really kind of follows, it's not necessarily a book about Daniel Boone, but it is, if that makes sense. I think what I enjoyed about this book is it follows American history from, Daniel Boone's birth until his death, and then it talks about where he fits into that American history over time. I really enjoyed learning a lot about history that I didn't already know. There's a lot of very detailed information in here about just events that I didn't even know existed, that Daniel Boone was involved in. I mean, obviously Daniel Boone has quite the American history and the folklore and all those things that exist out there, and there's tons of books about him and information out there about him. What I found great about this is just following the history, along with it, and then some of the stories of the American frontier back in that time and how the westward expansion. There's a lot of good and bad there. There's the quite frankly, we were the invaders, of indigenous nation or nations. Really is what it was, and how that interaction played out. So however that you want to think about any of that kind of stuff, the reality is that it happened, and that's where we are. I mean, regardless of all of that, there's still a story there about our history as Americans, and then really just this nation, the history of the land, right, and how things became the way they became. And it also, if you take the conservationist kind of mindset, when you read through this, you can kind of see how we ended up where we ended up. That's other kind of tie-in that I would put in here. Is probably not the intent of the book, but I always find when I read stuff like this from those periods of time in our history, it really kind of, you can think about how we got to where we did here as a nation when it comes to our conservation and wildlife in this country, which is good because we need to be thinking about those things. And the history of how we came to be with our wildlife is much different than it was in other countries. Granted, there's a lot of conservation issues throughout the world, but how we came to where we are today is much different than how many other nations around the world did. So, and I think that because of the way we came to it, and then also because of how, why it was allowed to happen, is also why we're able to have so much success in, fixing the problems that we caused. We have a long way to go, which is why we're here and doing this backcountry hunters and anglers thing, and getting the veterans involved through the AFI program, and creating the next generation of conservationists through the veteran community. So we have a lot to offer, and we need to stay involved, and we need to get everybody else that we know that has any kind of inkling to participate in this kind of stuff, get them involved. So thanks guys, see you next time.